Okay, lovely. So let's make a start then. That's great, thanks. So welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here at this launch webinar for our final MOOC as part of a series of 3 MOOCs that all cover safeguarding in the international aid sector, but this final MOOC is around leadership in safeguarding in the international aid sector, and it's really great to see everyone here. We've only got an hour, and so during this hour we're going to be running through sort of key items which are on the next slide, and we'll just quickly sort of talk through these. And firstly, we're just going to well, actually it's a real pleasure, and it's great that we have Peter Taylor with us, who is from the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, and he is the head of Safeguarding Unit and the Deputy Director of Fcdo, and he will be speaking very shortly, and it's really great to have him here with us. We're then just going to quickly talk about the background to the Advanced Safeguarding Leadership Training Project. We'll provide an overview of the course 3, and then we're going to have some feedback on the courses 1 and 2 that have already run and are presenting, and then we'll just highlight how you can register and talk about the platform through which you will register, and then there will be time at the end for questions and answers. But just to say as well that the questions and answers, the chat box is open, so if you do have a question, put it in the chat, and then if we haven't addressed it during the hour, we will pick up at that at the end, and we should have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. So do put your questions in the chat, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. And also just to let you know that the slides will be sent on to you at the end. And you should also be able to access the recording, or you can share the recording with colleagues so that others can listen to it as well at the end of this this webinar. So I'm now just going to hand over to Peter Taylor from Fcdo, and he's just going to talk a little bit about the Fcdo's commitment to safeguarding. So that's great. Thanks, Peter.
Great, thank you very much. Really good to be with everyone today. Apologies that I can't stay beyond about 10 minutes, but just to give a quick introduction. So I'm head of the Safeguarding Unit. Our work focuses on tackling sexual exploitation and abuse and sexual harassment, and primarily in the context of international development projects. Next slide, please. So the work that the UK government's been doing on safeguarding against SEAH is built around 4 strategic shifts, 4 main priorities that stem back to international summits that we hosted in London in October 2018. You can see the 4 there. They're tackling a range of issues around supporting survivors and victims, trying to enhance accountability and transparency, strengthening reporting and tackling impunity. That's the first one. The second one is around incentivizing cultural change through strong leadership, organizational accountability, and better HR processes. And the next 2 are around minimum standards on safeguarding for the sector, and how do we help organizations build capacity and capability to meet those standards. So the MOOCs support all of those, all 4 of those in different ways, and this 3rd MOOC is particularly relevant to the 2nd strategic shift around cultural change and strong leadership. So look, this is, but just to stress that this isn't just something that the UK government and Fcdo is really focused on. It's all major donors who provide official development assistance through the OECD. There's a development assistance committee, and all of the 30 members there agreed in 2019 a recommendation with a capital R on this, and leadership and culture is a key pillar of that. So it's not something that we're doing in isolation. This is something that will benefit all of your work in the international sphere, and also just for your own organisation as well. Next slide, please. So look, just some key messages from Fcdo. The UK government is really committed to tackling SEAH over the long term. We published a strategy in 2020 which sets all of that out. We expect all of our partners who we work with to take this really seriously, and this is to be part of how we work together. This isn't easy. Continuous learning, constant communication, cultural change is all needed, and this MOOC will really help you with that. So we expect all of our partners to do all they reasonably can to prevent SEAH and to act quickly and sensitively when cases do occur. We don't want to penalise, and we won't penalise partners for reporting just because cases occur, but we do want assurance that partners have done all they reasonably can to prevent it from occurring, and then are taking a survivor-centred approach and are handling cases appropriately. And before we decide to fund any organisation, we will conduct a due diligence assessment, and that includes an in-depth look at governance, accountability and leadership approach, specifically on safeguarding against SEAH. So the MOOCs have been designed with that in mind. Next slide, please. So lastly, just to say, look, this is the MOOCs and the work with the Open University is a really important part of what we're doing in terms of external capability building work, but it's just one element. There are other products are available and may be useful for you and your organisations and the partners that you work with. Safeguarding Resource and Supports Hub, for example, the work we do also with the Core Humanitarian Standards Alliance. We've funded the production of a handbook in this area. Also investigator training and guidance for investigations has recently been published. We're funding an organisation called HCI to help organisations verify whether and assess whether they're meeting the standards that are expected. And then, for example, we fund an online organisational cultural tool through Bonds, the UK NGO platform, which supplements other material such as this. So bottom line, really excited to see MOOC 3 going live. I think it's really valuable. I'm going to participate. I know others in my team certainly are. So really encourage all of you to do that, spread the word, and look forward to joining the courses and learning from them. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Much appreciated that you're able to spend some time with us just now doing that. So if we could move on to the next slide, that's great. Thank you. So just before we move on to talking about the specific content of MOOC 3, we'll just give you a little bit of background. I'm Jan Webb and I'm the academic lead for MOOC 3 at the Open University. And I have to say it's been a real privilege to have been involved in developing, well, all 3 MOOCs and having that input, which has helped to further embed safeguarding within the international aid sector. And as Peter's just highlighted, there was, from the summit in 2018, there was clearly a need to do, much work around safeguarding in this sector. And so it's been great to contribute to that. I think if we could just move on to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. So just a little bit of background around sort of the OU, or from the Open University, who's obviously worked in partnership with Fcdo, and it's been, great to have the funding from Fcdo to be able to actually develop these 3 courses culminating in MOOC 3. But the OU itself does teach international development. It has long-standing postgraduate courses in global development management. So working in the international development sector was not new to the OU, but also, the OU, it's very much building on its evidence base for online distance learning, which very much underpins the development of these MOOCs. And as you can see on the slide, we have a massive reach, over 7,000 students, overseas students, a 12 million community of OU learners. We're the largest UK university. And we work with disadvantaged students, but we have you know, a long history as well of working in the international development sector. You know, our conversations with Fcdo started, you know, a couple of years ago. We had conversations talking about safeguarding and how we could possibly address the perceived gap in accessible training and support for all the organisations in the sector as to how we could improve and help to develop safeguarding practice. And it was felt that it could be met through the use of online courses. And we went down the route of 3 massive online open courses to develop the program and to use the online space to do that. So could we have the next slide, please? And you know, so we started off with MOOC 1, which is Introduction to Safeguarding. Peter alluded to these in his slide. And you know, MOOC 2 then was very much about implementing. We then developed a training toolkit that can be used by participants who have participated in the previous MOOCs, so that they can use that as a resource to enable teaching and training within their own organisations and help further to embed that safeguarding as, you know, organisational, a norm in organisational culture as opposed to an add-on. But this is culminated in MOOC 3. And MOOC 3 very much focuses on leadership. The lead author, Anita, will pick this up shortly and talk to you in more detail about the content. But just to say that MOOC 3 can be studied as a standalone MOOC and is, you know, it has been designed for those who are working in leadership positions within the sector, but it will also enable those who have studied MOOCs 1 and 2 to continue to develop their knowledge and skills, and also to then take, you know, sort of lead on safeguarding within their own organisations. Next slide, please. And so, as we have done with MOOCs 1 and 2, MOOC 3 uses the Future Learn platform, and the learning takes the form of steps where it's broken down into bite-sized chunks with meaningful periods of study. And we also then include activities, which are elements of the online pedagogy, online evidence base for teaching in this way. But each activity has a defined goal, a learning method, and an outcome. And then the activities are also the activities use a variety of resources such as case studies, videos, quizzes, or discussion forums. But what we have to think about is the sort of the different steps being the Lego bricks that form the activity. And so a range of, you know, components are there within the MOOC. And what's really, you know, the advantage though is that learners can complete at their own speed. You know, it uses very much a social learning pedagogy, which is around, you know, using practical examples, interactive learning, which is via the forum, and our facilitators then also coordinate that and speak to the students through the forum. But it's, you know, it enables learners to study at their own pace in bite-sized chunks. So that, you know, and then also it enables participants to follow the safeguarding cycle as they go through the course. If though we could have the next slide, please, that would be great. And this is just a quick introduction to the authoring team. Anita Williams is the lead author, and she'll be talking to you very shortly. Myself, Susan Fawcett, and Andy Rickson. So that's the team. So next slide, please. And I'm going to hand over now to Anita, who's going to focus much more on the actual content of MOOC 3, and encourage you to join and do share also details of this with your colleagues. So over to you, Anita.
Thank you, Jan. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us on this launch webinar on MOOC 3. We're really excited It's the third in the trilogy of MOOCs that we've been developing the last 1.5 years. And Hannah has helpfully put the course links in the chat box. And I just want to echo, the vision for Fcdo when they made commitments in the Global Summit of 2018. I'm sure many of you were there. It is about professionalizing the sector, but really it is about an opportunity now to think about organizational culture and bringing about that much needed accountability and putting an end to impunity in the work that we're doing. Thank you. Next slide, please. So who's the course designed for? For learners who've undertaken courses 1 and 2, you will know that course 1 was really for everyone who aspired to learn a little bit more about safeguarding, or if you've been thrust with safeguarding responsibilities for your organization, where do you start? So that was the learner base. For course 2, it really was for practitioners and improving sort of the implementation of safeguarding at a project or program level. Course 3 here is specifically designed for those in leadership, governance or management positions in international aid organizations. So whether you're private sector, public sector, NGOs, in whatever shape or form, this is an opportunity to think through, what safeguarding means for you as a professional, but also for your organization if you are in a senior position. It is also designed for those who aspire to these positions as well. Next slide, please. So the key learning objectives for the self-paced course, and you'll remember all the MOOCs are self-paced. We do go through, the facilitation on a week-by-week basis, but learners can join at any time and catch up with other learners as well. So the key objectives are 1, to improve personalized approaches to safeguarding and embed evidence-based and culturally sensitive ways of working within your organization. And number 2, to critically reflect on personal leadership skills using different frameworks and tools to embed a safeguarding culture. Number 3, to share learning on good practice on safer reporting and responding in order to improve accountability. And number 4, to implement good governance with clear senior oversight of organizational safeguarding. So next slide, please. So what does that look like in terms of course content? We have covered leadership skills and approaches necessary for safeguarding, identifying and dealing with microaggressions, how to develop a safeguarding culture that prioritizes safeguarding, developing reporting and response mechanisms, including investigations for greater accountability, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, lessons learned from past mistakes or near misses in order to improve our policies, our procedures, and our practice. And really at the end of week 4 will focus in on the role of the board, so recruiting a purpose-driven diverse board that prioritizes safeguarding, which obviously will include survivor-centered referrals. Next slide, please. So as Jan has already alluded to, the way that we, the pedagogy on Future Learn, which is the platform that the course sits in at the moment, is a mixture of theory and practice. As usual, we'll have case studies, we'll be listening to pre-recorded interviews with practitioners on the field, and these are really powerful because obviously these are practitioners that face situations on a daily basis. We're really pleased to also announce that this is a blended course, so it is not going to just be focused on the information that is online on the course, but we're also going to be running 3 live webinars with esteemed speakers. So really getting an opportunity to come back from the learning that you've undertaken and to come back through the webinars to ask questions, comments, and debate and discuss this issue, because as we know, safeguarding is an ever-evolving field. What's excellent as well is the peer learning by sharing good practice on the discussion forum on the platform. That always generates huge amount of interest and huge amount of discussion. And it's amazing how much people are happy to share tools, resources, and insights into the work that they're doing. And then at the end of each week, we have a knowledge check quiz, so 5-6 questions, just to check in to make sure that you've understood the content of the of that week, but also to ensure you've embedded that content as well. And then there's opportunity for personal reflection time. This is, hugely important because this is about, thinking about our current practice and how we can improve on that. Next slide, please. As usual, we want to ensure that we keep learners safe and engaged. So the course does have a minimum age requirement of 18 plus. There is a Future Learn Code of Conduct for learners to click on, read and understand and adhere to during the course. We do have online Future Learn moderators to ensure that inappropriate content that may be shared by learners immediately removed when it's highlighted to them. We do have trigger warnings just in case prior to clicking on videos and or any other content that learners are aware that there are, that this could trigger emotions, and we know that safeguarding is an emotive topic. There is a Future Learn reporting mechanism. Again, this is also very early on in the course if you wish to report any concerns. And last but not least, we do have trained facilitators who are safeguarding specialists in their own right to support learners during the course. Next slide, please. So we just really want to also acknowledge the huge amount of work that's been done by the authoring team. So Andy, Susan and Jan have been brilliant, but also that there has been a wider number of organizations that really supported us in developing this course, whether by providing content and or by being critical reviewers. So a shout out really to the Safeguarding Resource and Support Hub, Bond, CHS Alliance, the Catholic Church in Malta, the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, Medicine Sans Frontier in Spain, Tear Fund based in Rwanda, Oxfam GB, Mercy Corps, Queen's Commonwealth Trust, and Street Child UK. Next slide, please. And really the course wouldn't be the course that it is and wouldn't have the popularity that it does if it was not for the online facilitators. And here we have Philippa Ramsden, Tina Pham and Helen Horn, all specialists in their own right, who are going to be supporting the course as you register for the course and as it kicks off on the 9th May. And I have great pleasure now to hand it over to Philippa so that she can provide you a couple of insights into how the feedback from courses 1 and 2, how it's been received by learners and what you should look forward to in course 3. Thank you, Philippa.
Great, thank you, Anita. If we could look at the first slide, there are a number of statistics there for us to kind of have in the background. My name is Philippa Ramsden, as Anita has just introduced, and I've been a facilitator in both of the MOOC courses so far, and I'm particularly looking forward to the MOOC on leadership in the sector, which will start on Monday. In the next few minutes, I would like to just share some reflections and insights from the first runs of MOOCs 1 and MOOCs 2. So a few headlines from the data and analytics, a few observations, and I'd like to end on a couple of quotes from learners who've completed the course. Now, there are a number of analytics here on this slide, and rather than go through each one, I shall leave that pleasure to you for when you receive the slides after this webinar. But I would like to pick out a couple of headlines and share the kind of the inside story in terms of what this has brought to the courses. So you can see that there have been over 3,800 learners who have joined the courses. And when Jan spoke earlier about the MOOC that we use all the time, MOOC, the first M stands for massive. So we can see that it has reached a really considerable number of people. But what is particularly interesting behind this number is the diversity of locations, of backgrounds of learners, of experiences. Learners have engaged with the course right across the globe. So from Sunrise in Australia and Oceania, across Asia, Africa, Europe, and through to America. As the day progresses, learners are joining the course and discussing day by day. The majority of learners have come from international agencies and national NGOs, but they've been learning alongside colleagues in government institutions, academics, training providers, and the private sector. So this has really created a very valuable opportunity for dialogue from such a variety of perspectives, but uniquely bringing this into the same virtual room. So in terms of a few reflections, what has the course really been like and what is behind the statistics? So a few reflections from my perspective. So while the content is the same, we have had 5 runs so far of the two first MOOCs. Every run has been different. The dynamic that the learners bring, their experience, their perspectives, and the questions which are brought gives each run its own atmosphere. The global nature, which I've mentioned, of the course is so clear. And as each day, as I said, the sun travels across the globe, and with it, the discussions gather momentum as learners engage with each of the steps as we work through the course. Thus, the interaction on the discussion threads can often span continents and time zones and widely varying types of experience and responsibility in safeguarding. While a learner might not physically be in the same space, on the platform, a learner from Cambodia can have a lively discussion with a peer in Malawi and find that they have experience, resources, and ideas to share. And later in the day, a learner in Brazil might join the discussion and add to the richness of that conversation. As mentors or facilitators, we are eager to join the conversations, and we try and time our interactions to both respond to points which have come up, but also to prompt and encourage further discussion. Often we've seen that learners can feel quite isolated in terms of their safeguarding role in their organisation, and the opportunity to connect with others on the courses has been invaluable. The fact that the discussion threads provide a safe space, as well as one where peers can relate to each other's work, has prompted some highly engaging conversations and discussions. I've also been struck by the openness to learning and sharing between learners who've often reported that they would download and use the resources, often stating that they would develop or have already adapted these for their own contexts and their own organisations. So the materials that are available are for broader use and are for making use of within organisations. What has been evident in this whole package of safeguarding training on a massive scale has been the commitment of each learner to be part of the movement that we spoke about earlier, to improve the standards and practice of safeguarding in the sector, professionalising safeguarding. Learners have been open and frank about where they want to and where they propose to see changes in their organisations. Now, I'd like to just finish up with a few last words from learners, which comes on the next slide. So if you will see a number of quotes there, but I've just selected 3, which I think really speak to the character of the course in terms of wrapping up my reflections. The first that I've highlighted is that this course is fundamental and should be mandatory. I think we like that. I think the idea that the course should be mandatory is really, it's important, and the fact that the materials are there for future use is really important as well. The second quote that I've selected is that it has helped me appreciate safeguarding as a whole, and I'm confident that I can also pass on the knowledge acquired to my colleagues. Again, really important to note that this is going beyond it's supporting learners in their role as a safeguarding focal point, or what their role is, and passing this on to colleagues. And the final quote that I've selected is, I think, really embodies what our intent is. As a result of this course, we are completely redrafting our safeguarding policy, procedures, and practices, both in head office and in all our programmes. And this demonstrates that the course is not only valuable in terms of strengthening the knowledge and practice of the individual learners, but these gains are being embedded in organisations, thus contributing to that broader transformation of standards and professionalising of safeguarding in the sector, as Peter said at the outset. So I'm going to wrap up there. That's just a few reflections and thoughts from our perspective and learning from the course runs so far. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to hand over to Hannah, who's going to talk about the platform and registration. Any moment now.
Thanks, Jan. Sorry, did the classic, forgot to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. And firstly, thanks, Philippa. It's so encouraging to see some of that feedback on the courses so far, and particularly lovely to hear your reflections and your experience, some examples from what it's like to facilitate the course and how the learners are interacting. It's really exciting. So I am the senior project manager for the project. And I'm sure Andy's just commented in the chat to please start sharing any questions that you may have. I know you'll be eager to find out or to ask anything that we haven't covered about the content. I just wanted to explain very briefly about the platform and how you can actually register for the courses. So next slide, please, Rachel, thank you. So as Jan indicated, this is the last of 3 courses. There have been several presentations of each course so far. They're all so far hosted on FutureLearn. If you've not had a chance to study the first 2 and you would like to, they are still going to remain open. The content will remain open and available for you until the end of July. So I did share the links on the chat earlier, and we'll make sure that they're in the communication that we send after today. So the latest course, Leadership and Safeguarding, starts on the 9th of May, that's next Monday. There'll only be 1 presentation of this, but again, like the other 2 that I just mentioned, it will remain open until the end of July. So the link at the very top of this slide, and also posted on the chat, will take you to the course landing page, which this is a little snapshot of what the top of that page looks like. Next slide, Rachel, please. So on that page, on the course landing page, you're going to find lots of information around the expectations, the timeframes, a course description, learning outcomes. You can see a snapshot there of the syllabus over the 4 weeks, and each one of those weeks drops down so you can see the detail of that. So really, really lots of detail, everything that we've covered today, but it's a good, hopefully a good and helpful information point that you can direct others to, or to the partners that you're working with, anyone else that couldn't attend today that you think would benefit from this course. To register, you'll need to click one of the pink buttons. You can see it there. They're very obvious when you look at the site, and it says something like "Go to the course, starts 9th of May," and they're in several places on that landing page. We can go to the next slide, Rachel. When you click on that link, you're going to be directed to a registration page where you can enroll in the usual ways. If you've studied with FutureLearn before, you can simply log back in and use the same details. You'll then be given a couple of options, and I just want to flag this because it's a question that's come through a couple of times. FutureLearn recommends a subscription, which you can see there, the sort of highlighted central column there. It says subscribe to unlimited. But this course is freely available, and in order to access the course for free, you want to select the join with limited access. That will mean that you can access it for free until it's closed on at the end of July, as I mentioned. So that is the one that you need to select. There is the option to upgrade if you wanted to receive a certificate, and you can either purchase that at this point where it says buy this course, or you'll have the option to do that upon completion of the course. So as you may be aware, the course is now open for enrolment. It has been for a week. I think we've got upwards of 100 already registered. We would really encourage you to sign up before it gets to Monday, and that way you will be ready when the content comes available on Monday, and you'll be able to take full advantage from the get-go of the social learning aspect that colleagues have already spoken about on this call. You will have our project email address in the follow-up email that goes out from this webinar. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions, or indeed if you need help enrolling on the course. I'll hand you back to Jan.
Thanks, Hannah. That's great. So we have had some questions in the chat box, but please do put your questions there if you have any. One of them was around the toolkit, and just to reiterate that we will share that PDF training toolkit with people following the call, and there are elements within that toolkit that people can use to in their own organizations to train others and to set up training sessions with those resources from that toolkit. One question was about studying MOOC 2 and 3 alongside each other. I think Andy has already responded and is identifying they're running at different times, so they can't be studied simultaneously. But the content of MOOC 2 is still available, and it will be, it's open at the moment, but the facilitation will stop, and MOOC 3 starts on Monday. So yeah, you can't really study them at the same time in the same way, but they will be available. The training records are only accessible to individuals who participate, or yes, question, are they? Presumably they're available to individuals who participate rather than the employing organisation. So yes, and in light of that, is it possible to host the course on an organisational e-learning platform in order that training records can be available? The course at the moment is hosted on the FutureLearn platform. In the future, it will become a course that people can access as a static course. We're not having discussions at the moment around hosting it on organisational e-learning, different organisational e-learning platforms. But if anything changes, we will let you know, update you. Anita, do you want to come in there? No, you looked as though you did, but I wasn't sure.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that then it's not a training course as such. It's open to all learners. So if you want to host it, if you want to share the link with colleagues in the organization, certainly please do. However, they would need to register to access the course materials. And so as Jan says, at the moment, it's an interactive website, and then it may move into a static website, but we will keep learners up to date with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. So I just want to pick up on another comment about, obviously you've commented that it looks fantastic and no doubt will be useful in the sector. We hope it will be, and we'll certainly hope it will make, MOOC 3 will make an impact on that leadership element of safeguarding that is much needed in the sector. But you've asked if it's suitable for board members with safeguarding responsibilities. Yes, it is. And whilst it addresses leadership, but it is around those who might have, a responsibility at, board level, as well as management level, as well as at trustee level. So it's about those who are influencing safeguarding, so need to lead. So whilst it's for those who might have a more, in a way, frontline role, is definitely relevant for board members as well with safeguarding responsibilities. So I hope that answers your question. And it's not specifically pitched for UK legal trustees, UK legal safeguarding trustees, or legal trustees with safeguarding commitments, I should say. No, it's pitched to meet that international audience. So it's definitely not just for UK legal trustees, definitely not. So hopefully that answers that question. Somebody's asked, Tracy, you've asked how much time will be needed to invest in MOOC 3. I don't know, actually, maybe that is something you can answer, Anita, in terms of the time, because it's a 4-week course. So I don't know, would you like to, can you pick that one up, Anita?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question, Tracy. So learners would remember that courses 1 and 2 were a lot more chunky. It was a 6-week course, and the devotion for time was longer. In this particular course 3, we've made it shorter. So we would expect learners to spend about 2 hours a week on each week. So that's only 8 hours. So plus 3 webinars, that would be another 3 hours. So really 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 hours in all. But obviously you can stretch it as long or as short as you want, but we would expect the learners to spend about 10 to 11 hours over a course of 4 weeks.
That's great. And also the webinars, because there's 3 webinars an hour long, which link very to the course content, but those webinars are also available to others who may not be doing the course if they want to come along to the webinars as well. But so, you know, so do share that with other people, but predominantly, you know, the webinars do sit within the course. We've got a question here from Philippa. When is it due to next run again after May 22? Yeah, so somebody, yeah, if you'd like to do the module but need some more notice to block out some time. We don't have plans at the moment for an exact time of when it will run again. I mean, it will be open for a longer period than the 4 weeks. And I don't know, Hannah, are you able to come in and talk about that from your project lead role?
Yeah, of course, Jan.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you say, the course itself is 4 weeks, but it is open from the 9th of May until the end of July, although the facilitation will run until the middle of June. So Philippa, you can certainly study any time up until the end of July. Following that, there is currently no intention to do a further presentation on FutureLearn, but as colleagues have mentioned, we are in the process of transitioning to what we call a static course, which means the course content will all be available in a new location. The benefit of it being that it's more sustainable and it's within the OU's platform itself. So it will be completely freely available, complete with a certificate as well. So it won't disappear, but I think at the moment there's no plans to do another presentation on FutureLearn.
Thanks, Hannah. Yes, so as sort of said, it will be moving to a static version. So so Philippa, if you can, I mean, obviously, you know, diaries, I get that, I understand that with diaries being very busy, you know, but it is open till the end of July. So if you maybe, you know, if you would like to do the module, you know, and perhaps, you know, if you can squeeze it in, that would be great, 11 hours of your time. But, you know, if you don't start at the very beginning, you know, you've got the full time to the end of July. So see how it goes. And when we do move the course onto a static platform, we will, of course, also, you know, advertise that and let people know. The webinars, when they run, will be live when they run, but as Andy's already commented, they will be recorded and not live sort of at a later, yeah, when they're available later. So they'll be live at the time when they run, but recorded for people to access at a later time. Okay. I think at the moment there don't seem to be any other questions in the chat unless I've missed anything. Andy, if there is anything there, just perhaps let us know. But
no, I think you've covered all the.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Andy. So there's still time if anybody does have another question, but I suppose the key thing is that MOOC 3 starts on Monday. If you know it is your intention to register, and we hope it is, then do you know, register as soon as possible. As Hannah has said, you know, if you're registered in advance of it starting, it'll make sure that everything is there ready for you to access. So please do think about doing that, you know, soonest. And you know, and it is, you know, it's open to safeguarding leaders, trustees, board members, managers, CEOs, as well as those who have, you know, a particular remit for safeguarding, perhaps within their role in the international aid sector, but will potentially be leading on safeguarding within their own organisation. It will certainly help to consolidate the learning from MOOCs 1 and 2 for those who've already studied MOOCs 1 and 2. And so, you know, so do let people know about it. And it's, you know, the great advantage of the way the courses have been for MOOCs 1 and 2 and how MOOC 3 will be delivered is that it is flexible and it does allow people to study in their own time. and work around, you know, busy schedules and diary commitments, you know, and that's one of the advantages of something that's set within the context of a massive online learning or open online learning course. So do encourage people to register and share information about it if you can do that. So that's great. And you know, and it's been really fantastic to be able to have developed these MOOCs, you know, and as we said at the beginning, you know, very much supported by Fcdo, and it's absolutely fantastic to be in this position. With their support, we've been able to develop the 3 courses, and as the feedback has shown, made a significant impact on those who have participated already. And you know, there was clearly a big gap in relation to safeguarding in this sector, and it's been great that we've been able to go some way to filling that gap and being part of the development. So somebody's asked about resharing the registration flyer. So I think we can do that, can't we, Hannah? And it's been shared in the chat box already. So if you go up, yeah, that's great. Yep. Hannah, you've put the flyer there again, or the information there. Is that the flyer you've just uploaded there? Yes, yes. So the flyer's been put in the chat box again. So no more questions coming in. I don't know if any of my colleagues. Well, yes, please do. I was just about to say if my colleagues would like to come in and add anything. That's great, Andy. Please.
Just 2 quick points, really. I mean, one was in response to, I think it was Tracy who was asking about how long it takes. I suppose, as Anita was saying, there is a kind of a fixed amount of time in terms of the materials. But I think the great benefit of the FutureLearn platform, as Philippa was saying, was really the time spent in terms of you as a group of leaders across the world, kind of, you know, communicating with each other. So I think to some extent, the amount of time depends on, you know, the extent to which you want to get involved in those kind of discussions, because I think that's where a lot of the real learning will, you know, takes place on these MOOCs. That is the real benefit of the platform.
Yeah.
And I think the other point I just wanted to make, Anita did flash up that list of acknowledgements earlier on, but I mean, we have had the benefit of consultation with, I think, some people who might even be in the room who did questionnaires for us and interviews, critical reading, and actually appear in some videos in the course itself. So we have had a lot of input from leaders in the field. So you know, we hope that you'll find that the course is really relevant to your work, as well as enjoying it, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks, Andy. That's some very good points made there. We've been really well supported by experts in the field who have, you know, contributed to the development of all 3 MOOCs. But, you know, within the context of this one, we've had input from those who, you know, have had experience of embedding safeguarding and changing the culture within their own organisations, talking to us, and some, you know, there's some videos around that with experts being interviewed and then talking about their experiences in lots of different contexts around the world. So yeah, we've been very fortunate with the input of experts in the making of MOOC 3, and that's been really great. So, you know, thanks, Andy. Just a query from Helen about the options for the certification on the 3 courses. So the courses are free. All 3 MOOCs are free, but if you want a certificate, you then have to pay, it's £37 for the certificate. And so if you wanted that option, then you'd have to pay for that, if that makes sense. So hopefully that's answered that question. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Hannah, from your perspective around that.
No, I don't. That covers it, Jan. I think, as I mentioned, this is the advantage of shifting from FutureLearn in the future, but currently that is the option.
Yeah, no thanks. So
May,
yeah, so it's free unless you want, but then, you know, but if you want the certificate, then no, there is a cost of £37 for that.
Jan, may I just
Yeah.
add just a point of clarification? I think there was a question earlier about studying the courses at the same time. I think practically speaking, there's no reason why you can't do that on FutureLearn. It's just whether that would work for you personally in terms of your own learning. I'm sure Anita and Andy would have thoughts on that, but practically speaking, I think you can study the courses alongside one another at the same time. You can study multiple courses on FutureLearn.
Whilst, yes, on whilst they're open, you can. I think it was about the safeguarding courses, yes. Because somebody's also said, if Jeffrey, if you've missed MOOCs 1 and 2, can I go back and attend? Well, MOOC 2 is still open, but Hannah, MOOC, they could still access MOOC 1 then, can they?
Yeah, both of them are still open until
that's right.
Yeah.
So yes, you could potentially go back and go through the materials on MOOCs 1 and 2. So yes, it's basically the answer to that question. And I see, Hannah, you'd already put yes in there anyway. So, and Jeffrey, you've said great. So that's hopefully answered your question. But the facilitation for course 1 has finished, but the content and the discussions remain available until July. So I hope that helps. I hope that clarifies. Any other queries? Any other colleagues wanting to chip in, say anything, add to anything?
I just wanted to say, yeah, it's just really important. I mean, many of you probably do have responsibility for safeguarding in your organizations, but so feel free to share the information with your leadership teams, your trustees, and think about also your partners. This course has been written and authored with a global view in mind. It is all those who work, you know, within the sector, all, you know, whatever entity that looks like. So because safeguarding is such an essential matter that we all need to get into grips with. So feel free to share with your partners, the executive directors or CEOs or senior management teams of your partners as well globally, so that we can really have a fruitful discussion about this about the subject. It is not UK centric. Obviously, we will take a few things from the UK, you know, where there is good practice, but we really want to ensure that good practice is shared globally. So thank you for that.
It's really important to get the message across that, you know, safeguarding matters, you know, across the sector. It's really important. Yeah. We have got 5 minutes left. Still time for a couple more questions. But I mean, the content, and as you know, we've been through sort of what the course will contain, so we'll send the slides out. If anybody has any queries, they can go back and look at the slides, listen to the recording. But you know, essentially, you know, this MOOC will help people to develop leadership skills, or to use their leadership skills to embed a safeguarding culture, and to ensure that safeguarding does matter across organizations when working with partners, and you know, across the globe. And as Anita said, it's not UK centric, it's very much got the international context. So if you do have any queries, you'll be able to go back and to, you know, look at the slides. And also, if you join MOOC 3, you can then have your queries answered whilst on the course as well. So do, you know, register, share, encourage others, you know, where you know that, you know, safeguarding training is needed. So please do encourage others to join. That would be great. And I think it's just, you know, to say thank you to everybody for attending and taking time out of your busy schedules. It's much appreciated. and really hope that we see you on the course, at the webinars, and, you know, share, you know, information around not just MOOC 3 but all 3, and the safeguarding toolkit as well is available. Obviously it's very much come out of the content of MOOCs 1 and 2, but a very useful resource that will enable others to share and embed safeguarding knowledge in practice. So it's just to say thank you ever so much. Great to have seen you all, and see you on the MOOC, we hope, or see your colleagues on the MOOC. So thanks very much.